think this is really important. If we take a look at critical minerals, it's not the critical minerals, but it's actually the processing and ore refinement that I think would be the best thing to do for Russia and the United States to work together. It's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different layers to this. To say that, us getting into bed with Russia from an investment standpoint is a great thing. I think overstates some of the challenges that we would have. Obviously, Russia is a large energy exporter. If Trump truly does want to bring down energy prices, getting Russian fuel and Russian gas back onto the market is a good thing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat podcast. This is the weekly edition. This is a summary of all the best stories that the staff puts together. It has been an absolute wonderful week here on the news desk. I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. We'd like to give a shout out to Steve Reese for sponsoring the Reese Energy Consulting. Go to reeseenergyconsulting.com and give them a look. If you're needing to buy or sell oil or natural gas, or if you're needing a data center and you need to know where to get your power, Steve Reese is the team to do it. So with that, buckle up and listen to the best stories of the week and have an absolutely fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you all soon. UK looks to woo investors impacted by Trump tariffs. Michael, there's about 4 different key points in here. Following the policies in the US, the UK is actively seeking to fill the market gap by encouraging companies previously invested in the U.S. investments to consider Britain instead. Prime Minister Starmer has emphasized the U.K.'s commitment to low carbon future. You take a look at what's going on in the UK energy policies and marketing, they're about as dumb as it possibly can get. They have lost so much money. They have wasted all this money. And here's another quote. The government is acting now with muscular industrial policy. I fell apart laughing at that one. Is that because it's muscle memory that they've forgotten and have Biden amnesia? I'm not sure. We're paying the price for our overexposure for many years, the roller coaster international fossil fuel markets, leaving the economy and therefore people's business household budgets. But Michael, this is the same thing, same country that is forcing oil companies to go out of business, and they want low cost energy. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, both those things really stand at odds with each other, at least right now. I mean, you show me a cheap renewable farm, I'll show you thousands that aren't. We covered last week how tax credits being taken away from offshore wind, and now all of a sudden nobody's building them anymore. So,
Ruh-roh.
yeah, exactly. Ruh-roh. They pulled a quick Scooby on that one and got out of there. Do I think people are now all of a sudden going to be flying into the United Kingdom for investment? No, I don't think so. Do I think they'll get some investment? Yeah, I mean, I think as obviously with the way things are shaking, you are going to see money move a little bit. Is that more of an attack on Trump than it is maybe a sound business decision? It remains to be seen. But if this quote, hey, we're going to, from the PM over there, Starmer, hey, we're going to bring in new investment by focusing on low carbon future. Good luck.
Good luck. Rots of ruck. U.S. eyes post-war joint business with Russia in energy and minerals. I get really tickled at this whole story. President Trump sit in the middle of the Vatican with President Zelensky, who is no bigger than a flying squirrel. Rocky the Flying Squirrel and Bullwinkle in the Vatican has a very unique picture. I found that very interesting that President Trump had to look at Zelensky and say, we're ending our support in a closed session with everybody around looking at it. President Putin has offered his minerals. He wants to do business with the United States, and that is the only way we will see an end to this war. If it's done correctly, we may end up with a new trading partner of Russia. Go figure this out. Russia, encouraged by President Trump's talk of economic deals, could flow a peace agreement drawing up a list of projects and assets officials might hope interest the U.S., according to people in Moscow Times. The envoy Steve Witkoff met with President Putin in Moscow on Friday for talks. I think this is very important. This is a quote. Russia's trade with China is currently about 70-fold larger than its trade with the U.S., so that naturally limits the available options, said Maria Sengolia, a senior fellow at the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies. The White House could adopt a more flexible approach to sanctions and enforcement, potentially allowing U.S. companies to secure meaningful stakes in Russia energy ventures. I think this is really important. If we take a look at critical minerals, it's not the critical minerals, but it's actually the processing and ore refinement that I think would be the best thing to do for Russia and the United States to work together. It's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different layers to this. To say that, us getting into bed with Russia from an investment standpoint is a great thing. I think overstates some of the challenges that we would have. Obviously, Russia is a large energy exporter. If Trump truly does want to bring down energy prices, getting Russian fuel and Russian gas back onto the market is a good thing. Obviously, there is some tensions from a geopolitical strategy standpoint and a national security standpoint. I think to fool ourselves and think Russia is our friend is also a misservice. Russia is a convenient partner, and it's a little bit of like the enemy is my friend. It seems to be Trump has made Zelensky out to be the enemy, and now guess what? You end up finding yourselves aligned with people who may not have your best interests at heart, but you have a common enemy in what's going on in Ukraine.
Can I say that Zelensky may have done that to himself? I mean, the man owns a ski resort in France. His wife owns a $15 million Burgundy. She just bought a $2 million dress from Princess Diana. Where are they getting that kind of money? Oh, the U.S. taxpayers.
Yeah. Now, we could also go down the road of the U.S. is probably the reason that Zelensky is in power because we came in with the CIA and overthrew the government. So we could keep going farther back and eventually saying this war is probably our fault. And so if we're not going to go in there and support somebody and at least attempt to do something, we're not even standing up for the own regime that the CIA back in 2014 decided to slip in. So we go down this road. Point of the matter is I think there's a lot of other stuff going on here. I do think if specifically what Steve Witkoff has brought up specifically is those interest in working with Russia on those energy projects that are in the Arctic. There's a lot of stranded gas going on. Now, Trump has come out and said he is not, and they've been very clear that we've not lifted energy bans yet. So I think they're ironically, if they wanted to crush natural gas prices and crush oil prices, they'd come out and just say we have lifted the ban. That would drive down. You'd see a $5-6 drop in the price right there. So I do think there's a lot to unpack here. Do I really think something is going to happen intimately? No, but I mean something needs to happen at some point. We do know that there's a lot of oil and gas companies in the U.S. that lost a lot of long-standing
billions
oil and gas infrastructure in Russia. We know that ExxonMobil lost the Sakhalin 1 as it was basically just declared a Russian entity and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be very interesting. And
this goes back to my comment, Michael, is that I don't know that we need to do joint oil and gas deals. And as we talked about last week, I don't know that having President Trump and the United States act as the middleman for all natural gas and managing the Russian assets in the EU is a good thing. I think it's a way to get him to the table. But I sure don't want to be in the middle of a gas policeman. No gas for you today because we have to negotiate with Putin. No, I don't want to get in the middle of that mess. Holy smokes, Batman.
No. EQT jumps out, buys private Marcellus operator Olympus Energy, a Blackstone backed company for $1.8 billion, being able to, the crazy part is too, they're able to, their stock is so valued by Blackstone that they went ahead and took 26 million shares of common stock, which was valued at about $1.3 billion and about $500 million in cash. And
wow.
Give you guys an idea, Olympus owns about 90,000 net acres in southwest Pennsylvania, which is right there next to EQT's core Marcellus portfolio. It does about 500 million cubic feet a day. They've got about 165 gross locations, another 60 that's 165 available in the Marcellus bench, and then they have some deeper benches, including the Utica at about 60. So you're looking at about 210 locations. Be interesting to actually see how many of those check out. And what they claim is that at maintenance activity levels, Olympus holds about a decade of high quality Marcellus inventory and another 7 years of Utica upside. I'm just reading straight from here. That's an IR guy of the week quote right there, because who knows if that's true. If Scott Sheffield sells to Exxon for $58 billion, then comes out and says, yeah, they've only got 2-3 years left of actual good inventory, I'm going to hold my breath on this fact that there's 10 years of high quality Marcellus inventory running out here. Part of the reason I think Blackstone was interested in the stock was the fact that they also are partnered up with a non-operated interest, specifically in the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which was acquired by EQT 2 years ago, which they spun out and basically monetized again, as what I've been saying for a while. Midstream assets, right before Trump got bought or won, midstream assets were on aggregate, I felt, going to go down, because all of a sudden, with less regulation, means more pipelines can get built, which now all of a sudden means the natural monopoly that had taken place because of regulation through legislation, now all of a sudden you can build a pipeline, and you don't get a premium for just owning a pipeline that happened to have been built 5 years ago. So super interesting stuff. EQT is probably one of the better managed natural gas players. They will come, and I think all that stuff. And it's, I wouldn't want to be in the natural gas space though. They, good for them.
Spain and Portugal hit by widespread blackout. It eased over into France and a few others. And where we in the United States only have grid interconnects with Mexico and Canada, you have France, Germany interconnects, you have Spain interconnects, you have UK. They're all interconnected up there. And I put all of those in this article, Michael, to go through all those here in a bit. But the Spain, France, Bexis, Santa leg of it is 2,800 megawatts. France, Germany is 13.6 gigawatts. Spain, Germany connected via France. Then you have Spain, Portugal. This whole thing, and Javier Blas put out a great post. It was about solar was 60%. Wind was 12%. Nuclear was a good solid 11%. But you have a combined cycle, or what they call dispatchable or no inertia. Inertia is what's called dispatchable, or power plants that are spun up, and that's called inertia. So gas-fired was less than 3%. They basically idled all of their non-dispatchable power. I mean, it was just unbelievable. How was this done? I mean, and so when the sun goes down, it's evening there in Spain now, past the siesta time, and they're now into the dinner hour. If they haven't got it fixed yet, they got some serious buku problems today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in Spain who's affected by this. I mean, there's untold number. I mean, there's going to be a body count associated with this. Energy, as Stu pointed out, is secure. It's one of the reasons why, we pound our fists on the table for the United States to watch out to this stuff. It's pretty unbelievable. This blackout started this morning, or really last night, and kind of rolled over into the morning. As you said, it not only affected Spain and Portugal, did bleed into France a little bit. Right now there's really one cause, or at least what they're telling us is the cause, is some sort of cyber attack, whether that's state sponsored, whether it's a rogue group, or whether it's a combination of the two, like kind of a Hamas situation where Iran is really sponsoring Hamas, but then Iran can say when Hamas does something, we're at an arm's length. I'm not saying either of those two are involved. I'm just kind of using the idea of, some sort of non-governmental backed, but kind of governmental backed organization. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Things are still out right now. I mean, we're sitting here at about 5:30 Central Time, right, Stu? Things are still out.
Yes. And it's really a big deal. It is bringing to light and a good pun, by the way, it's bringing to light the horrific problem of renewable energy that is not renewable, it is not sustainable, and it is not dispatchable. That is the critical part. In the article on energynewsbeat.co, Robert Laforgo from France on LinkedIn wrote, a massive blackout has struck in Spain, Portugal, and parts of France. But he puts in here possible causes for state cyber attack. But he also says that it could have really been a cyber attack. And Michael, I want to bring this up to a very big point to our listeners on Energy Newsbeat. The Biden administration put back into the grid. Let me make this very clear. From a Wall Street Journal article that I reported on 2 years ago, they put back into the grid components that can be cyber hacked by China and shut down 490 different major interconnects that can be shut down by China. So this is a real thing. Energy security starts at home.
Yeah, I want to start a new segment called Stu Conspiracy Corner because obviously this is some sort of cyber attack. But I want to get into your mind a little bit. What do you think's going on here?
Well, if you really want my honest opinion, I think that the EU and the as an organization is in trouble. And the EU is looking at ways of controlling the population. And if there are massive blackouts, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, said that there will be blackouts and we will take you down. So would you believe that the man is just nutty enough? He just retired, but are his mechanisms still in place? Yeah, be prepared.
Good old Klaus Schwab. I knew you had something crazy cooking behind there.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that it is a cyber attack or it was not dispatchable power that they've overdone on the grid. And they're absolutely, grid planning is horrific.
You go with Klaus Schwab. I'm going to say it was the Ukrainian SEALs. That's my vote.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins. The Ukrainian Dolphins training the Ukraine SEALs, and he was brainwashed by Schwab.
With help with the lizard people.
Oh, there you go.
But no, but in all seriousness, guys, just to kind of wrap this up, really scary situation, what's going on in Spain and Portugal. Prayers go out to everybody there. You know, we will keep you updated as new information rolls out, but super scary stuff.
The title of this article is California's new drilling permits drop from thousands to dozens per year. This exemplifies what a horrific energy policy looks like. Statistics provided by the California Department of Conservation to the Epoch Times show that the new drilling permits in the state increased from 1,788 in 2018 to 2,676 in 2019, and then decreased 1,994 in 2020. Since then, new permits plummeted from 564 in 2021 and 561. Michael, we're talking only 500 wells. We're talking California was energy independent before Gavin Newsom got into office, and he has destroyed the state.
Yeah, I think this is hilarious right now. So California Geological Energy Management Division, CalGEM, is the kind of the regulating body that approves these permits. Get this, Stu. Currently, the rules say that if CalGEM doesn't reply within 10 days, a permit is automatically approved. The catch? CalGEM will send an email automatically acknowledging receipt of the application, but then doesn't respond for years. And that's according to State Senator Shannon Grobe, who represents the Bakersfield area. So you get an auto reply of, hey, we got it. We got it. It's in our inbox. By the law. We'll get to it. You know, and if you've ever hung out at the DMV, you know how slow things can get. So, woohoo!
Man, watching paint dry is a whole new meaning. So I'm excited about this entire thing. And you know who the losers are in this, Michael?
What?
The consumers in And there, we've also had a story run on energynewsbeat.co. We had a story about the gasoline prices in a new study that was, wait for it, not caused by pilfering or theft. It was 100% based on their policy. The EU's green dream ignores the US warnings and falls into China's geopolitical grip. This story has an underlying story that's not talked about. It. This is written at the Daily Caller. And when you take a look, it's the article talks and says the European officials are seemingly not very concerned about the possibility that the continent's green energy agenda may be vulnerable to Chinese aggression in the future. I, for one, would not want Chinese. You're just offloading your solar and your wind to be manufactured by Chinese equipment, and there is lots of gear that they can control. There's a reason Yahweh should not be in your phone system. There is a very big reason for this. It's really not a surprise that Europe has a hard time understanding the need to pivot on energy and security and serious approach to sustainability. Stephen Yates, a senior fellow for China and national security policy at the Heritage Foundation, told the Daily Caller News Foundation. How does increased dependency on the world's leading polluting nation do anything for the planet, much less for their goals, whether we agree with them or not? What a great point. I mean, they're putting out more coal, and the Great Wall of China does absolutely nothing for keeping all of their coal fumes and pollutants in. China's green energy giants, meanwhile, have been accused of engaging in unfair or predatory trade practices as well as benefiting from slave labor. You know, the Green New Deal is really coming to light, and you're finding out that the Green New Deal is not sustainable, and the grid requires two things: physics and fiscal stability in order to run. Those two things cannot be falsified or shortchanged. If you falsify or shortchange the physics or fiscal responsibility, you will end up like what just happened in Spain, and we are going to see more of that around the world. But what this is underlying is the EU as a trading bloc is losing power. The Green New Deal, the Green New Energy policies equals deindustrialization. And we are seeing that play out in real time. China gets wealthier, the rich get richer, and then the poor and the middle class get wiped out. And this is almost all about, and could be all about, control. So the EU is trying to control the population, and the EU and the UK and Canada, I'm lumping all three of these groups in the same. What is going to happen is the trading group and importance is going to slide to Asia more and more, and India is the number one trading bloc in the world right now. You're going to have India, you're going to have other areas of importance to trade with. The EU is really should be waking up and going, the Green New Deal regimes change when high prices and energy prices happen. We're about to see not only regimes change, you're going to see trading blocks lose their viability. This story is from the Crude Truth Substack. I recommend following it over there. Go to the crudetruth.com and check out everything over there as well. I just want to give them a shout out. Let's take a look at U.S. LNG will be the United States' largest export product, Secretary Chris Wright. But buried in this article is Poland's buying a nuclear plant from the United States, and Secretary Chris Wright was there during the signing celebratory mission. But I want to give Art Ray Trevino a shout out here for this article, because when President Trump is out there saying drill, baby, drill, And all of the great oil and gas exploration companies in the United States have been giving money back to their investors while remaining fiscally responsible. I think that the regulatory things talked about in this video from Chris Wright are spot on. And I think Ray Trevino is spot on from the standpoint that the United States drilling cannot be supported at $60 oil. We really need that $70 oil or higher. We can make money, but it's how you plan your wells out and how you define them out. Just not every piece of well or every land is going to be used at $80 oil and the well efficiencies, whether or not they can be used. But let's go to Secretary Wright in this article that Ray put out. Oil, gasoline, and diesel prices have been the lowest in years, saving American consumers. Enabling more affordable and abundant energy is critical for emerging industries like AI to survive. Exporting nuclear reactor to Poland is extremely huge. LNG has become the second largest U.S. export and will soon be the largest. Here's my warning that's not in this article from the Crude Truth. President Trump, you have got to get our shipbuilding in line. I know it's going to take time, but we're going to have to buy tankers and flag them just to get around the Jones Act. And we got to get the rhinos up off their carcasses so that we can get the Jones Act killed. It is going to be a big deal to get that thing done. And in here, the Secretary Wright has just more fantastic points in there. The return of common sense has been welcomed across the country and the world, and this is exemplified by Secretary Wright in Poland during the signing of two companies being able to supply the nuclear power plant to Poland. Outstanding meeting and well done, Secretary Wright, President Trump, and Ray Trevino.